And of course, our top story is the seven-way election debate on the BBC last night. But don't worry, because in case you missed it, we're going to give you a brief roundup of what was said. Well, the Prime Ministerial stand-in, Penny Mordaunt, joined in the criticism of Rishi Sunak for leaving the D-Day commemorations in Normandy early.
What happened was completely wrong, and the Prime Minister has rightly apologised for that, apologised to veterans, but also to all of us, because he was representing all of us.
Would you have left D-Day early?
I didn't go to D-Day. I think what happened was very wrong. I think the Prime Minister has apologised for that. But what I also think is important is we honour their legacy.
Meanwhile, Labour's Deputy Leader Angela Rayner accused the Conservatives of 14 years of abstract, or did she mean abject, failure.
We've heard from the Tories for 14 years that they were going to do something about skills and manufacturing in this country. I asked the people to look at their record, and they constantly spout these lies that we're going to stop people's cars, that we're going to do this, going to do that, when really the reason they say that is their 14 years abstract failure.
And are your green policies going to be...
You have failed the British people.
But amid the bickering and the talking over each other, Plaid Cymru's Rhys Puris found the time to highlight the lack of excitement surrounding Labour.
I believe that the real frustration in this election is the lack of change on offer from the Labour Party. Whether you liked him or not, there was a feeling. I was still working as a journalist back in the 90s when Tony Blair came in. At least there was a feeling of something different happening.
And of course, never one to go amiss, Reform UK party leader Nigel Farage spelt out his frustrations with today's political leaders.
I think this has been one of the worst general election campaigns so far between the two main parties I've ever seen in my lifetime. It isn't just that their leaders are dull, clearly, well, very dull in the case of Labour. I mean, sort of Blair without the flair. I mean, the real leader of the Labour Party is here tonight on the stage. At least she's got some personality.
Well, there's lots to get through. We're joined now by author and commentator Nichi Hodgson and TV personality Ben Offerwedu. Really good to see you both this morning. Nichi, we'll start with you. What did you make of last night's debate?
Gosh, I don't even think this seven-way debate formula works, you know. There's just too much going on. It's like being in a weird pub with a group of friends that can't agree and everybody's trying to chip in at the wrong point. I think it's actually really confusing to watch. But that said, I mean, it's kind of extraordinary, isn't it, that Penny Mordaunt took the gloves off and then had to direct the punches at her own leader rather than at somebody else, you know?
That was an interesting choice by her, wasn't it? Because she could have just laid out the Conservatives' record on veterans.
She could.
But she decided not to. She decided to stick the knife
and she's got a reputation for doing that, actually. You know, several times in her career, she has kind of gone for Rishi Sunak already. And we know that's because she's got her own ambitions to be leader of the Tory party.
But surely, Ben, she did that because what Rishi Sunak did was indefensible, right?
You can't defend what Rishi Sunak did. I mean, I can't, but I mean, he was just following protocol. I'm sure he was advised to leave at that time. He's just following the schedule and not really thinking about it. And I think that it's sad that he didn't have his own mind to think, no, I can't leave this. Why would I do that? You know?
It's a wonder that nobody in his team even realised. I was thinking about it yesterday. Even as he was flying out of Normandy, you would think that someone in his team would think, oh, but wait, every other world leader is staying, so perhaps this isn't the best.
What is that about, right? Because it does happen in teams sometimes. You get this kind of group thing where somebody says it's fine and everybody says it's fine too, and it's a really negative dynamic.
But it's not a one-off. We saw it with the lectern when he announced the general election, allowing him to go out there and get soaked in the rain. Then he went to the Titanic quarter, which people said that had, you know, symbolism of the sinking ship Conservative Party. So it's not just this one-off gap.
I was canvassing for a party, I won't say which one, yesterday, and sometimes you could be in a team that you didn't even know, and the team I was canvassing for, some of them didn't even know that the debate was on, because you're so into the campaign and into what you're doing, you know, it's like you can't see outwardly. So that can be a thing as well. You can just be so stuck in. It's like being in a pop band and you don't really know how big you are because you're spending all the time together. Do you know what I mean? You're in your own world. But it was a terrible. And he was doing so well, because I think he battered Keir Starmer in the first debate. I mean, that's my personal opinion. And he was doing really well, and then that D-Day thing was just...
What do you make of Nigel Farage's comments about, first of all, Sir Keir Starmer saying he had no character, he was Blair without the flair, but then latterly saying that Angela Rayner suggesting that she would be a better leader than him because she's got personality.
I think a lot of people support that, I think a lot of the reason people who want to vote for Labour this time will do so is not for Starmer, it is for people like Rayner, some of the more interesting personality-led characters in the Labour Party. I do like Blair without flair. I mean, look, Farage is a consummate showman and he knows exactly what his strength is. His strength is those kinds of things. I mean, the other week I referred to Keir Starmer as an office hole puncher that gets passed around because he does feel like that. He's got that lack of personality. This was also a piece kind of extolling the virtues of Richard Tice, which I think has had something to do with him then leaving and Farage becoming leader.
Well, this is really interesting. It leads us very nicely onto the Independent front page. Thank you, Nichi.
Yeah.
It's a poll in the Independent that suggested that Reform UK's Nigel Farage is the most popular option to succeed the Prime Minister Rishi Sunak. The poll offered 6 other names. Penny Mordaunt was on 15%, James Cleverly on 6%, Kemi Badenoch, Suella Braverman, Priti Patel and Robert Jenrick also on there. But Tory voters want Farage to succeed as a leader. What do you make of that, Ben?
I think that our new leaders have to be showmen. I think we've just moved into that time of social media and it's like that pop star time where everyone's just got to be famous and have some nice lines and stuff like that. And I think that, some of even with London Mayor, he's from that school of, Boris Johnson, Angela Rayner kind of fits into that school. It's like they all went to the same school. Do you know what I mean?
Just briefly, what did you make of Rayner's mistake where she said abstract failure instead of abject? I don't want to dig her for that because it's the kind of thing I'd say on air, and I've probably made many similar mistakes before. But I mean, is that a sign of anything, or just an innocent mistake?
I don't know. You can't really tell them with her. I mean, that's probably just an innocent mistake.
Yeah, she did get a bit of stick from trolls on Twitter.
I mean, it does happen. We've all been there where you go to say one word and another word comes out. It's just broadcasting to some extent.
Yeah.
But it was, it's ill-timed and bad luck on her part. But there are far worse words she could have said instead. It wasn't kind of 1,000% removed from what she actually meant. So,
who do you think came out the best last night? Who was the most confident orator from what you could see?
That's a really interesting question. It depends what you're rating them on. Farage is always going to just be so relaxed. He's so relaxed
and at the end,
and knows how to do that.
I'm the only leader here who didn't use an autocue.
Yeah.
That was interesting.
Well, he's obviously had a lot of practice, hasn't he? Broadcasting elsewhere, Will.
He never used to do, infamously, his show here with autocue, and he was very proud of that.
Yeah.
Most other presenters use an autocue for intros and then just, add a bit of converse off their own bag. But Nigel, even with his introductions on his show, never used an autocue, and he was always very proud of that. He's such a good communicator on that.
Yeah, he's very good.
Yeah.
I mean, that's his strength. Communication, leadership is his strength. He's just one of those people. He has that going on,